will likely limit the support that Sean and Jesse and his family receive. So that's one family. That's one family in southeastern Pennsylvania, the Tomkos. And they have serious choices to make about what treatments and support they can afford if this bill goes through, and possibly if their children will be able to be active participants in society. So that's one family, and every one of you could tell your own story. And we're going to have to ask ourselves a couple of basic questions in the next couple of days. What kind of country are we?
Right.
What kind of country do we want to become? Are we going to be one family or not? That's one of the questions we're going to have to ask. And you know what? For the people in this audience and behind me who have a disability, you taught me something else a long time ago in addition to those 4 pillars. You also taught me that nothing about us without us, right? So we've got a big fight ahead of us, but you know what? I'm very confident today. Despite all of the challenges we have, I'm very confident because I have you on our side, and I have the people that you represent on our side as we fight like hell to stop this Republican bill. And in order to win that fight, we're going to need warriors like all of you. And one of the best warriors on health care, someone who fights like hell every day to help working families in Michigan and to help people with disabilities, is Debbie Stabenow, Senator from Michigan.
Great job. All right, give it up for Bob Casey, the great champion for health care from Pennsylvania. And, you know, Bob is he is leading the charge because we believe that in America, everybody counts. Everybody counts. And that's why everybody should have access to see a doctor, medical care, and the support they need to be independent and successful. That's what this is about. These are basic American values. And Bob Casey represents those. You know, I have to say today, looking around, and we've been joined by the great senator from New Hampshire, Maggie Hassan. But I have to say that we wouldn't be here today, we wouldn't be talking about opportunity and the dignity of work and independence without a gentleman sitting right over there, Tom Harkin, the senator from Iowa. We want you back, Tom. We want you back. Yes, well, you are here, and his vision and tenacity and passion has opened doors across America. And for that, we are grateful, Tom, for that. Tomorrow, as we know, the Republican plan, the TrumpCare plan, the TrumpCare plan they're going to vote on will turn its back on Michigan families, on all of you, on all of us who care and believe that health care is a right, not a privilege. And it will turn, this plan will turn its back on people across Michigan. We have about 2 million people in Michigan alone, and I know there's stories all across the country. We know that 2 million is part of 14 million people that'll lose the ability to see a doctor, get medical care, get support. Next year, 24 million people over 10 years. That's not who we're about, and it's really a triple whammy for the families I represent in Michigan and across the country. Higher costs, less medical care, and higher taxes. It's a bad deal. It is a bad deal. And that's why all of you are here to say that. This bill, when I think about the people that I know in Michigan and care about and work with every day, this bill really means that somebody struggling with a mental illness like bipolar disorder, working very hard to get their life together, to work, to be active in the community, that they will lose medical care. This TrumpCare bill turns its back on them. Means that TrumpCare turns its back on a mom or dad who has a child with autism or Down syndrome, like my brother and his wife, or my beautiful, wonderful nephew, Barry, who is active and involved and working and a wonderful part of our family. This TrumpCare bill means that if your mom or dad need a nursing home, or someone with disabilities needs long-term care or nursing home care, it's going to be very hard to get it. The services will be cut. So it is a bad, bad deal. Now, I want to share one story. I've asked Chris Lurchin, who is here from Michigan, to join me so I can tell her daughter's story. Liz, who is 37 years old. She's severely disabled. She requires 24-hour care and relies on Medicaid to be able to live and stay in the community. And while she doesn't speak and has one hand and uses a walker, she works at Home Depot and has worked at Home Depot for 17 years. In fact, she can't be here today, right? Right. Because she's working. That's what this is about. That is what this is about. Not only providing medical care and support, but the dignity and the tools to be able to be successful and independent and contribute in our economy and in our communities. Without Medicaid, without access to a doctor, without the protections that are in the Affordable Care Act that we passed, we would not see Liz working at Home Depot, and we would not see all of you here as such important parts of who we are. We thank you for who you are. We thank you for being here, for being part of the great mosaic of who we are as America. You are important. You count. You count. And that's why we are here. So the bottom line for all of us is to say, we will not accept the repeal of medical care and Medicaid that will undermine so much good that is happening now in the United States. We want to move forward and do even more. We want to make things better. We want to lower costs. We want to create more opportunity for people to be able to get the care they need. So thank you very much for being here. Your voices are incredibly important. Now, we hope we can stop this tomorrow, but I can assure you that if they are foolish enough and callous enough to pass this in the House of Representatives, we will be there in the Senate to do everything that we can. So thank you. Do you want to introduce Maggie, or you want me to introduce her? Yeah. Let me now pull up an outstanding senator. Now, she's new to the Senate. She is not new to these issues. She's not new to advocacy. She's not new to fighting and standing up to create opportunity for everyone with every ability and every disability to be able to contribute and be an important part of our country. And we are so glad that we now have her voice in the United States Senate, Maggie Hassan.
Thank you. That was great. Well, thank you, Senator Stabenow, for the introduction and for your remarks and for all your extraordinary work. And to Senator Casey, thank you for your leadership on this and many other issues. I know I just saw Senator Van Hollen out there, and I know Senator Schumer is making, there's Senator Van Hollen from the great state of Maryland. I know Senator Schumer should be here shortly, but I would be remiss too if I didn't do a special thank you to Senator Tom Harkin, who we thanked earlier. Senator Harkin probably doesn't remember this, but as a mother of a, at the time, very young man who experiences severe disabilities in New Hampshire, when Senator Harkin was exploring our state during the New Hampshire primary, he gave me a call because I had written an article about the importance of what federal and state governments do to empower people with disabilities, what a difference it had made in our lives. And Tom Harkin called me to urge me on, so thank you, Senator, for that very early leadership. I really appreciate it. As I think most of you know, I do approach this issue with the perspective of surely a United States Senator, a former governor, but also as the mom of a son who experiences very severe disability. My family understands, I think as well as any, both the strengths and the weaknesses of the American medical system. Ben today is a stable and healthy 28-year-old young man who happens to experience very severe cerebral palsy. So while he can't speak and can't use his fingers, he can raise a hand to say yes, and as you get to know him, he can make his opinions known very, very well. And he is very, very smart and a really important part of our home life, our community, and a very proud graduate of our local high school. So we know on a personal level the difference that not only health insurance makes, but the Medicaid program makes, because between the care that my husband Tom and I give, the care that some respite care workers do, and the Medicaid provided home nursing, Ben has been able to have a healthy, strong life in our community and in our home. And so we all know how critical Medicaid is to people living with disabilities and to their families. So it's essential not only that the senators you see before you tell stories that we know from our personal lives or from those of our constituents, it's really essential that all of you continue to share your stories about how you would be impacted by the devastating cuts to Medicaid that are in the health care bill moving through the House of Representatives, the bill known as TrumpCare. And the reason it is so important is when each and every one of you engages, it makes a real difference here in Congress. When people come to Washington and write to Washington, it helps connect the dots for legislators about how their decisions here affect real people at home in their states. As we know, TrumpCare hurts people who experience disabilities with drastic cuts to the traditional Medicaid program. This plan changes Medicaid into per capita caps or a block grant system. And that, yep, you're right, because that is just code for a massive cut to the federal support that states currently receive. So, as a former governor, I can tell you the position that this puts governors in. They will have to choose between slashing benefits or reducing eligibility or raising taxes. States will be faced with cutting services that people with disabilities depend on, such as personal care, prescription drugs, and rehabilitation services. We could see more waiting lists for waiver services and cuts to what are called the so-called optional services, the supports that allow people to interact and participate in their community. We know that those services aren't optional if we want people who experience disabilities to live full lives and be full members of their communities and the workforce. We also know that these services are critical to allowing family members to work and participate in the community as well. So TrumpCare could also mean that states would cut home and community-based services, including services provided in our public schools. Losing access to these services could force people who experience disabilities into often more expensive institutions, rather than being able to receive care at school, in their homes, at work, or in every other part of their community. We can't afford to go back to the days where we marginalize or don't assist some of our most vulnerable people. So I'll stand strong with the people of New Hampshire and my colleagues in fighting against this dangerous bill that will pull us backward. Senator Stabenow, in her remarks, talked about that basic founding American principle, that principle that says that every single person counts. we matter. That's what our founders said. Now, at the beginning, they didn't exactly count everybody, did they, right? But here's the thing. They had the confidence that every single generation of Americans moving forward would do more and more to include people who hadn't been counted, who were marginalized, into the heart and soul of our communities, our democracy, and our economy. They understood that when we do that, it is, of course, good for the cause of individual dignity and freedom, a goal that is worthy in its own right. But what they also knew was that when we do that, when we include everybody, we unleash talent and energy, the likes of which the world has never seen before. That is the secret to our success. So I encourage you all to keep raising your voices, keep telling your stories, keep showing people that there are vast possibilities out there that we haven't even reached yet. They lie within each and every one of us, and assuring that each and every one of us matters and is recognized for the person with the capabilities that they have. Thank you so much. Go get them.
I'll take the initiative to introduce the junior senator from Maryland. Chris Van Hollen worked with us for years to pass the ABLE Act when he was a member of the House and a leader in the House. Now he's a senator from Maryland, a great advocate for people with disabilities, Chris Van Hollen.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Bob. And I'm really honored to join with all of you to send a very simple message, as Senator Maggie Hassan just said, that in the United States of America, everybody counts. Nobody should be left behind. We need to make sure every person has a chance to achieve their God-given potential. That helps those individuals, and it helps the entire community and the entire country. And we need to stand up and say that loud and clear. I want to thank Bob Casey, Senator Casey, for all his leadership and advocacy, working with so many people who are gathered here today, passing the ABLE Act most recently, but working together to make sure that everybody in this country has a chance to succeed. And to Senator Hassan and Stabenow, and it is really great, as others have said, to be here with Tom Harkin. Senator Harkin, thank you again for your leadership. And with all of you who are here, on your behalf, on behalf of your children, on behalf of your brothers and sisters, I saw coming in Joyce Lippman, who I've known for over 30 years, working with her and her daughter Elise. And I'm really glad we were just joined by one of my constituents from Tacoma Park. Alec is right here, and he was a little late. I was worried he couldn't make it here to this gathering, because you know what he's been doing? He's been going to talk to all the Senate offices to tell them to make sure we stop the abomination that they're pretending is a health reform bill, when it's a bill that strips access to affordable care to tens of millions of Americans by stripping away Medicaid and other protections, and at the same time provides a huge windfall tax break to the wealthiest people in America. I just want you to think about this. This bill has a $590 billion tax cut. Most of it goes to the very wealthiest in the country. At the same time, they're stripping away protections from Medicaid and very vulnerable people who deserve a chance. Now, I want to tell you about Alex's story, because he was diagnosed with autism at a young age. Many people tried to force his parents to institutionalize him. His parents said no, and with the help of Medicaid, he and his parents were able to benefit from services provided by Medicaid, including therapy sessions and a brain surgery that he needed to survive. This morning, he told me, and I quote, "I would be lost without Medicaid. These services saved me." Alec, thank you for being here today.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for being here today. I just want you to know that because Medicaid and all of you were there for him, he was able to get his bachelor's degree in political science, a master's a master's degree in disability studies, and now he's advocating with all of you and millions of Americans around the country to make sure that we do not harm and do damage to people on Medicaid. I want to read you something that was tweeted out at 11:30 a.m. on May 7, 2015, and I'm quoting, "I was the first and only potential GOP candidate to state that there will be no cuts to Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid." That was tweeted out by the current President of the United States. Mr. President, do not break your word. Do not violate the promises that you made to the American people. Don't tweet one thing and then do another thing. But we do know that this has been the plan, this bill has been the plan of somebody else for a very long time. And that is Speaker Paul Ryan. The Ryan budget has called for almost $1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid for a long time. We've all rallied to stop it, but now we face a very clear and present danger because they have someone in the White House who apparently is prepared to violate his earlier pledge and sign that bill. But here's what Paul Ryan said the other day. You may have seen it. He was doing an interview, and he said that he had been thinking about cutting and block granting Medicaid, sending it back to the states. He said, "I've been dreaming of this since you and I were drinking out of a keg." You see that the other day? And the interviewer turned to him and said, "I don't know about you, but back then I wasn't thinking about slashing Medicaid." And the reality is this was a bad idea when Paul Ryan was drinking out of a keg. It's a bad idea today. And we need to say no to TrumpCare, or whatever we want to call it, because it really says Trump doesn't care and Ryan doesn't care. All of us here care. I know the American people care. I know at our core, the people of the United States care about making sure that everybody counts. And we need to make sure that we stop this abomination in the House, and if it makes it here, I look forward to working with Senator Casey and all of you to make sure it never gets out of the United States Senate.
Thank you, Chris. Chris, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Van Hollen. Let's give him a hand. Now,
We should probably go to Tom Giots.
now, Senator Harkin, we're going to move him out of order because we're going to have him come up early. But if we need someone to talk for a while, he can go for a while, I know. But look, no legislator in the United States of America in my lifetime has done more to fight the battles that you fought alongside him than Tom Harkin. So Tom, come up here and lead us.
Thanks, Bob. My God, it's good to see you, buddy. My gosh, I tell you. Wow.
Go, Tom, go.
Come on, easy. God, this is great. Wow. I never knew retirement could be so much fun. I tell you, it's really, Bob, I got to tell you, it's really energizing, Chris, to be here with all of you. However, the occasion is kind of disappointing, but it is energizing to see people that I worked with 29, 28, 27 years ago to pass the Americans with Disabilities Act. I see them here. But it's even more heartening to see all the young people here, the ADA generation people here. Because you're the ones who have benefited from both the Rehab Act that Bob mentioned and also the Americans with Disabilities Act. I refer to our young people as the ADA generation. You're not going to take a back seat anymore, and you shouldn't take a back seat anymore. You know, as Bob said earlier, 27 years ago, when we passed the Americans with Disabilities Act, we had 4 great goals, didn't we? We had equal opportunity, full participation, independent living, and economic self-sufficiency. In 27 years, and I know Chris Van Hollen has seen it in Maryland also, we've made great progress. You know, when Walgreens drugstore in Hartford, Connecticut, at their distribution center, when they have 40% of their employees are people with disabilities, and they're being paid the same as people without disabilities, and the CEO of Walgreens told me it's their most productive distribution center in the United States, you know we're making some progress.
Yep.
Now, again, this bill, actually Senator Casey had the right word for it. He called it a scheme. It is a scheme. It is a scheme. What it does is it really destroys Medicaid, and it strikes at the very heart of those 4 goals of the ADA. Now, you know, they're not dumb enough to try to overturn the ADA. They know that wouldn't get it very far. But if they can pull out all the supports for ADA by destroying Medicaid, that's what this bill does. Without health care, without direct support services, without durable medical equipment, you know, without the basic services, a person with a disability cannot have full participation, cannot have opportunity, cannot live independently, and certainly can't have a job like we heard from I wrote her name down there, Elizabeth Lurchin in Michigan, who works at Home Depot for 17 years. She relies on those Medicaid services so she can have a job and be a productive member of society. This change in the Medicare program to a block grant is cruel, it's unfeeling, and devastating to people with disabilities, and I might add, Senator Van Hollen, it's a con job on the taxpayers. A con job. Here's what I mean. There's a front page story in this Sunday's Des Moines Register in Des Moines. That's Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa. And it is a story about the cuts in Medicaid from the state taking over Medicaid and giving it over to private companies. Ooh. Just like the block grant. It was a story about Jamie Campbell. He's 44 years old. He is paralyzed from the neck down because of an accident in high school. He's now 44 years old. He lives by himself in a small house in a very small town in rural Iowa. He has aides that come in during the day to feed him, clothe him, bathe him, do his bathroom. He has a nurse in the morning, a nurse at night. He gets around the community with a wheelchair that he puffs on. You know, those little things you puff on, and he wheels around the community. He's a member of the local school board. He's actively participating in this small town of Fontanelle, Iowa. Now, here's what's happening. He is having his support services cut. They're cutting the pay of his support service from $10.50 an hour, big deal, to $9.40 an hour. They're cutting his hours from 200 hours a month to 170 hours a month. Now, as he said, if that happens, I can't continue to live by myself in my own home, in my community. I'll probably have to go to a nursing home. Now here's... That's right. That's right. That's right. Keep it up. Keep it up. Now here's the con job. Here's the con job. In Iowa right now, the average cost for a person in a nursing home with a severe disability under the age of 65 is $4,856 a month. That's $58,000 a year. Now, Jamie's support services aren't even half that much every year, but he's living independently at home, a member of his community. So not only will his life be devastated by going to a nursing home, the taxpayers have to spend more money. That's the con job. That's the con job. So again, this Medicaid bias, you all know what I mean about the Medicaid bias. This Medicaid bias for nursing homes has got to be extinguished, not extended, not extended. So we're not going to turn our back on decades of progress towards those 4 goals of the ADA. Donald Trump. Not only is Donald Trump making us more mean and calloused and uncaring and selfish, he's doing his level best to make us more stupid. We're not going to be stupid. I like you. Anyway, we need you to help fight this bill. I want to just close by thanking Senator Bob Casey. I first saw him when he came to the Senate, became a member of the committee I was privileged to be the chair of, and when he took up the fight for the ABLE Act and got it through and helped so many people in this country. He was the real spear carrier on that one. And now I see him stepping forward to assume an even more prominent role in continuing the fight for the 4 great goals of the Americans with Disabilities Act. I want to thank you very much, Bob. Thanks, buddy. Thank you. Thanks to Chris Van Hollen. Thank God you're in the United States Senate, Chris. and Maggie Hassan and Debbie Stabenow. Look, you know, I got to tell you, look, I'm here. I'm not in the Senate, but I'm here. I want you to know I don't work for a law firm. I don't work for a company. I don't lobby for anybody or anything like that.
Thank you, Tom Harkin.
But I'm here with you. And I will be with you and fighting this bill and doing everything we can to continue to promote full participation, equal opportunity, independent living, and jobs for people with disabilities. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Let's hear it for Tom Harkin. Hey, Tom, you gave us that old-time religion. That was good. Look, I know you've been standing a while and it's getting cold. I don't want to stand between you and your next stop. I don't have to tell this crowd what to do. You know exactly what to do. There's a building over there and they're going to cast a vote. Let's stop them. Thank you very much.
Thanks again, Bob. Thanks for having me here. I appreciate it. This is kind of nice. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
So how are we doing?
Hi.
All right. You're getting warmer, right? Thanks again for being here.
Thank you.
We're ready for battle.
Something like that.
I can tell you right now, people are tired. I know there's in the Senate. Well, TrumpCare's is running the election next year. I'm hoping